Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley and today I'm going to be doing a tag video. This tag I believe was started by Georgia Harris, which I will make sure to go ahead and link for you because it's really interesting. It's the Realistic Makeup Collection tag, which I kind of felt was really an interesting thought because I've been collecting makeup for a few years now and my collection is not what many people would view as realistic. So let's talk a little bit about what that means because it's kind of a subjective sort of thing. So for me, a realistic makeup collection are what my makeup collection would have been like a few years ago, knowing what I know now about makeup, if that makes sense. Most people don't have drawers and bins and just the insane amount of makeup that I have, which neither one is wrong. They're both good in their own right, depending on the owner's feelings towards it. But I realize that for most people, their makeup fits in their bathroom drawer. Not an entire room. So I really try to think about it in that perspective, looking at everything that I currently own, and if I had to pare it down to what would fit into my bathroom drawer that I would use every day to get ready, what that would look like. I remember in college, all of my makeup fit into a tackle box, and that includes my theater makeup, because I'll be honest, when I was in high school and college, I didn't really wear a lot of makeup. Most of it was either theatrical makeup or just like a little bit of mascara and eyeshadow. I really didn't start getting truly into makeup until I was in my 30s. I was very fortunate that I've always had really good skin. And that is kind of important. A lot of my girlfriends were wearing foundation products starting in like middle school, not because they needed it, but because, that was the thing to do, was you got into makeup. And I was always into eyeshadow. So I remember distinctly when I was in grade school, my mother's mother, for Christmas one year, gave me this huge eyeshadow palette. It had every single color in the rainbow. God only knows where it came from or why she gave it to me, but I loved it. And I would literally pair whatever color shirt I was wearing, and that color would be from my lash line all the way to my brow bone. And man, I thought I was looking on point. I'm sure I looked ridiculous because if I was wearing this color shirt, I would find the closest blue in that palette and I would just pack it on. So I've had kind of an on again, off again when it comes to makeup. I remember in middle school trying to wear foundation. I remember I bought a little glass bottle of, I want to say it was CoverGirl. And I lived in Texas. I grew up in Texas where it's just hot 90% of the time, it seems like. And we walked everywhere, my friends and I, that's just life in the 80s and early 90s. But it would just sweat off of my face and I hated it because if I would even touch my face, it would just come off all of my fingers. It was on my clothes. I didn't know anything about the proper amount to wear, the proper application, setting it with powder. I don't even think things like primers existed at that point in time. And I didn't like it. And so I didn't do it. When I wore makeup, it was mostly, that's not a word, mostly eyeshadows. And even then it was sheer. It was just a sheer wash by the time I was in high school and college with a very neutral lip. I was in high school in the mid to late 90s when really just deep, vampy lips were in trend. And I've got a pretty full lip. And I just remember my father mocked me so heavily for wearing the kind of trendy colors at the time. And it had a stigma that sat with me for a long time. So I wore a nude lip until I was in my late 20s, early 30s is when I finally started kind of branching out into more colorful lips because I had that in the back of my mind. So when I look at my makeup collection and I think of everything that I own, if I had to condense everything down into one drawer and use that, what would that look like? So let's first look at some of the face products that I would use. So I've got two actual liquid base products and they're both BB creams. So one has much more coverage than the other. So let's talk about my Bare Minerals Rescue Complexion. Mine is in the shade Opal. I love this. This has SPF 30 in it, and this is a very, very sheer, very hydrating sort of formula that my skin still looks like skin. And for me, that's something that's really important. I didn't start wearing face products, complexion products, until I was in my 30s, because that's when my skin really started to change and it just got more and more uneven in tone and color. I've always had a natural flush and a natural redness to my skin, but it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. And I've also noticed a lot of sun damage from not taking the proper precautions when I was much younger. So wear your sunscreen. But this is something that helps to just even out the tone of my skin while it still looks very skin-like and very natural. So I really do love this product. If I was looking for more coverage, I would use my Bye Bye foundation. This is the full coverage moisturizer. It's got an SPF of 50 in it. I've tried a couple of different variations of this product. This one just happens to be the Bye Bye foundation, but I've used some of the others and I like them all relatively well. This one here is in the shade Fair. And I do like it. It is a hair dark on me, so I do have to sheer it out pretty well. But this gives much more coverage than the Bare Minerals does. I'm also a big fan of powder foundations. In fact, when I did start wearing complexion products, this was actually one thing that I used a bunch. And this is the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better CC Sheer to Full Coverage Finishing Veil SPF 50. I love this product. Even in the summer, I still go back to wearing powder foundations more often than not because I feel like they are very flattering for my skin. I am typically pretty dry, but in the summer, as you know, your natural oils and sweat starts to come through, for me, it just, the way that it meshes and like gets soaked in by the powder that's on my face, I feel like it just continues to look very natural and still very skin-like. At the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for. Even when I have a more high coverage foundation, I still tend to sheer it out so that my skin still looks very, very skin-like. Today I'm actually wearing the Fenty Pro Filter foundation, which is a more full coverage, more matte formula, but even still, I sheer it out so that my skin still looks very much like skin. So this is something that I would definitely have in my Realistic makeup collection. And then of course also a loose powder as well. I'm really loving this Fenty Pro Filter powder, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be this specific one. There are a few loose powders that I really love. The difference is there would just be one of them instead of a whole drawer full. And I think that this is one that I would be very happy to use for the year and not have any complaints. So that's why this is here. But there are a few others that could be in its place that would work very, very well also. But that would be another product. I would have probably one concealer. I'll be honest, the one concealer that I would have, I'm currently out of. Oh, I can show you my empty. Hold on. Okay, so if I could only have one concealer, it would be this one right here. This is my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the shade Vanilla. I love this. It is easily my very favorite concealer of all times. So in my Realistic makeup collection, that would be it. But this is the one that I have in the basket for right now. This is my Milani Conceal and Perfect. It's not as amazing in my opinion as the NARS, but it works very, very well. The point is that they have similar formulas. They're not heavy and matte and thick and cakey. They do give good coverage, but they still have a slight dewiness to them. They're easy to blend out and still look very, very natural. I don't like very heavy, as you've probably realized, I don't like very heavy foundation concealer type of coverage. And so this is, I feel like this is a decent drugstore comparison. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a dupe by any means, but it's a good comparison, I would say. So that would be there. I would have just one primer, and I think at this stage it would be the Tatcha, the Silk Canvas. I stinking love this thing. I feel like it makes everything that I put on my skin look better. Everyone's skin is different, everyone's needs are different, so you may not agree, but for me, that would be the one that I would have in my Realistic makeup collection. When it comes to face products, again, I would be a little bit more truncated than currently. I would only have one bronzer because honestly, one bronzer for me is all that I need. I really don't switch it up. I'm currently panning a different bronzer this year, and I have no trouble doing that in the sense that I'm not drawn to using a multitude of bronzers the way that I am with, say, for instance, eyeshadows or lipsticks. So I think for me it would be the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil. I absolutely love this bronzer. I did attempt to pan it last year. I didn't finish it, obviously, but I did get a decent amount of pan, and it took me the whole year to do it. For me, this is a great color. It is a very neutral bronzer, which I appreciate. I'm very fair, but I also have neutral undertones. When you are very fair, the very fair bronzers on the market, at least for me, do tend to pull quite orange, whereas this one doesn't. This still gives a good bronzed effect without leaning too ashy and not leaning too orangey. For me, this is awesome. And so I would have no problem having only the one bronzer in my collection. And that's something that I need to remember, because I do have quite a few bronzers here in this drawer that you can't see. And I don't know why, because like I said, I would be fine with using one bronzer all year. That's why I'm not having any trouble making progress on my Becca bronzer that I'm trying to pan this year, because I don't feel the need to pull for different things. So it would definitely be this one in my Realistic makeup collection. And blushes are also very similar. I would probably say these would be my two picks to fit in my bathroom drawer. This one was limited edition. You can't get this anymore. This was the Lorac release for Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's just, for me and for my skin tone and for my preferences, absolutely perfect. So this has both blushes and highlighters in it, but like for instance, these two blushes right here, they're very natural, and they're not crazy. Like I said, I started wearing face products to help hide the redness that was going on. So for me, I have kind of this love-hate relationship with blush. I realized that I needed to put some of the color back in my face after I've put on all of my complexion products, but it's hard for me to really, you know, embrace blush because I'm trying to cover up so much natural redness. So these sort of very dusty, very natural colors for me are what I'm looking for. And I think that that's why the other one that I would have in my collection is this Duo by Jouer. This is in the Duo Adore. And it just looks like this. It's very easy, very natural, very wearable sort of colors that aren't crazy pigmented and over the top. So I think for my Realistic makeup collection, those would be the two kind of blush options that I would have. Now this sort of speaks to two categories, since this does have highlighters in them as well. And I do have two other highlighters. So again, highlighters are one of those things that I don't have a strong compulsion to change up every day depending on my looks. As long as I've got one that leans a little bit warm and one that leans a little, I would say a little bit more cool tone, but not like icy, I think that those would really kind of do me, because regardless of what kind of eye look I chose, they would cover it. So aside from the ones that are in that, I would definitely have the ColourPop Super Cheek in the shade Fire. This is from the Kathleen Lights Zodiac collaboration, and I absolutely love this. This is my favorite, absolute favorite highlighter from ColourPop, without question. I just love it. I have to convince myself that I don't need a bunch of backups because it's a cream product and it'll go bad, but it is absolutely stunning and I really, really love it. And it's one that I would have no problem using almost every single day. Additionally, this one here by Persona Cosmetics, I absolutely love this. This is in the shade Zuma, and it's just, let me give you a swatch. It's just kind of a champagne-y golden kind of highlight. It actually, now that I'm swatching them next to each other, looks very similar to Fire. It's just a powder versus a cream. You know, I go for a more natural sort of highlight. I'm usually not looking to just absolutely shine and glow to the gods, which is beautiful. I'm not saying it isn't, but on my day-to-day life, that's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm wearing to work, and that's just not what I'm looking for. Whereas things like this shade is very flattering on me, and I can blend it in a very, very natural way without looking out of place, I guess. Because again, as I've said as a broken record, what I'm looking for is to be more skin-like. For my skin to look like skin, but really pretty skin. Yep. Alright, so I have been rambling on for almost ever. Let's move on to eyes, because this is where I had the most trouble trying to think of eyeshadow palettes that I could realistically utilize on a daily basis, because that is one of the things that I am most heavily drawn to is eyeshadow. I love it. I have hundreds of palettes, thousands of pans in total. I love eyeshadow, and the thought of, you know, trying to fit my eyeshadow choices into a drawer was really, really difficult. So when it comes to eye bases, I would just need one. Right now I'm using MAC Painterly. I've also really loved the Smashbox Photo Finish. I really like the Urban Decay Primer Potion. The point is that I would only have one, and I would use it up until it was done and then buy something else. This just happens to be what I'm using right now and really enjoying. But when it comes to eyeshadow, I would have to just choose a couple of palettes. And the two that I pulled for this was my Persona Cosmetics Identity palette, and this, which came out for holiday a couple of years ago, from Makeup Forever. So let's take a look at both of these. Okay, so my Identity palette, looks like this. This is genuinely one of my top favorite palettes of all time. I love this. So this has a beautiful mix of warm tones and cool tones, mattes and shimmers. Sorry, I'm trying to keep the white balance. This is hands down a stunning, stunning, stunning palette. And it has, honestly, basically everything you need. You've got transition shades, you've got shimmer shades, you've got outer corner and definition shades, you've got liner shades, you've got everything that you could need in here. But I also know myself, and I know that I get bored really, really easily, and I would want a little bit more variety than that. And so that's why I pulled this one, because realistically, if I could only choose a couple of palettes, this would be a really beautiful everyday palette also, because it has everything that I need in it with a little bit more variety, because you've got these beautiful purple shades, you have this beautiful burgundy shade, you've got this lovely olive right here, as well as some of those shimmer shades. So this is honestly a gorgeous, gorgeous palette that I don't use enough. And this would have been the other one that I would have pulled into my collection. Kind of an odd choice, I guess, especially when I look at all of the palettes that I have in my collection. I think this would be the other one. Funny how life works sometimes, I guess. And then I would also have these right here. These are genuinely the oldest products in my collection, and I will keep them forever because they are just my favorite. I don't use them very often anymore, but these are pigments. They're loose eyeshadows. I bought these when I was in high school. I bought these in 1998. Yes. 21 years ago. Dang. But they're beautiful. I would use them as just a quick wash of sparkly sheer color, and I love them because I forever have loved things that sparkle. So I know that I would have either these or something very similar to these in my Realistic makeup collection, because that's what I've always had and I absolutely love them. When it comes to setting sprays, I would have the MAC Fix Plus. This is amazing. Amazing. This is by far my very favorite facial spray. It is so, so, so good. So this would be in my everyday drawer. I feel like the battery on my phone, what's wrong with me? On my computer is dying because my system's acting weird. So let's quickly talk about lips. I have one lip gloss, and 4 actual lipsticks. So the first few that I have here are just everyday easy wearable lips. So this is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea in Set Sail. This is a very just everyday sort of wearable when I wanted something that is a little bit of a deeper nude. This is a beautiful, very, very flattering shade that I absolutely, absolutely love. In that same vein, I have this one right here. This is by Maybelline. This is in Spicy Mauve. This is one of their Shine formulas. And you can see it's quite similar, but it is definitely more pink and a little bit warmer. And I would also have this by ColourPop. This is in the shade Ariel. This was my favorite shade out of the collection, and this is just a very warm, sort of brown leaning nude. Again, very beautiful. And then I would also have to have a red, because you need a good staple red. This one is by Dear Dahlia. This is in the shade Carmen. And this is just, for me, a perfect red. It's got kind of a burnt orange sort of feeling to it. It's a little bit cooler leaning. I love it. It's beautiful, and this is a very similar color family, obviously. And then a good lip gloss. Right now my favorite is from Smashbox. This is their Los Angeles formula, and it's beautiful, but it is, for me, the absolute perfect lip gloss formula because it's not sticky, it's got some sparkle to it, it has some sheerness, I can layer it over things very, very easily, and it is perfect. I love it. I know it's newer, so some people may feel like that's cheating, but I do absolutely love it. This is everything that I look for in a lip gloss. So that is what I would feel like is a realistic makeup collection, at least for me. I would be really interested to know what you feel like would be your realistic makeup collection. In fact, if you have done this tag, let me know. I would love to check out your video. And I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are new, I hope that you'll consider subscribing before you leave. I hope that you are having an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye.